Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Snow West Show. We are starting our 4th year here, and we've got a lot of great content lined up for you in 2025. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. Real quick, before we get into this episode, the Snow West Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. And for a limited time, Polaris is offering up to $3,000 off or 0% APR for 36 months, plus a 2-year warranty on select models. Now, 0% financing is pretty rare to find these days, so I'd jump on that offer. And these offers run from January 1st through February 28th, so start shopping for your next sled now. Go see your local Polaris dealer or find your closest dealer at Polaris.com. Also located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from riding areas like Buck Ridge and Cara Basin, 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling adventure. Single cabins and large full cabins with kitchens are available. Check them out at 320ranch.com. Also sponsoring the Snow West Show this year, Fly Racing. They're the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they are bringing that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has you covered for your snowmobiling need head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thank you to Deviant Inc. for supporting the show this year. Head on over to deviantinc.com and check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Inc. designs in the colors that you've selected. Check all that out at deviantinc.com. Thank you for listening again, and now back to the show. Did I do the clap?
Yeah, you did the clap.
That's part of the routine. Oh, man, I feel like an idiot now. Hey, everybody. Ryan Harris here with Snow West Magazine, the Snow West Show. Take 2 on this one because somebody didn't push the record button on this end of the table. But we're live here at the Idaho Snowmobile Show. We've got Justin JT Cox here, Justin Cox 205 on Instagram. One of the prominent snow bikers in the industry. He's riding for Mountaintop right now. If you follow the snow bike industry, kind of follow that segment, he's a good follow. He's got lots of good content out there. We got Justin Stevens down there at the end of the table, Snow West Test Rider, probably annoyed with me right now that we've got to kind of reshoot some of this stuff. But
just have to remember what we said.
Bonehead move there. But yeah, so let's take 2 on this. So man, the conversation we had was phenomenal. I'm going to tell you that. I just wish it was recorded. But JT, how did you become a snow biker? Do you have like dirt bike background, snowmobile background?
Yeah. 3rd generation snowmobiler, and grew up riding dirt bikes and snowmobiles. And when I was in my 20s, I had to pick one basically, and worked at a dirt bike shop and built a name doing riding clinics on the side, and realized I loved winter too much to almost resent it. You know what I mean? And I was like, dude, I'm getting a snowmobile. I'm getting one. And my buddy's like, well, I just rode a snow bike and we're getting snow bikes, so you should get a snow bike. And the rod come out, and he's like, it's only $3,000. He sold me on like the only $3,000 part. And so I snow checked a raw, like on the normal snow check timeline, and had to sit on that decision all summer with a pretty negative opinion of snow bikes, being a full-blown snowmobiler that had no intentions of putting a dirt bike in the snow. Like, I like my snowmobile, I like my dirt bike, I like them separated. Yeah. And so I made that decision, and then let it gestate over the summer, and then I went and picked up the kit my first day, and I rode it down the trail, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just buy? Like,
you don't start out on the trail.
Yeah, and it's just on the, you know what I mean? And then
sketchy.
Yeah, and then I like bombed off into the trees, and like just like what I'd seen Regan and those guys do, and I was like, there's something to this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how that all started.
Yeah, you don't want your first experience to be on trail, and that like there used to be some demo rides in Island Park, and they would do it in trail. March, and so you're talking like hard compact spring snow. You got to run down the trail because you're not near the trees, because you got to be next to the parking lot to get people on it. Yeah. And it's like, man, that is not the first impression that you want on a snow bike.
No.
Because you got to get into the trees, into the untracked snow, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is fun. And then
right, that's part of the allure, right? Is you're off the trail. Like riding a dirt bike, you're always kind of stuck to a trail. You stay on the trail, but that's one of the cool things about snow biking in the wintertime or snowmobiling. You can go anywhere you want. Yeah. So that's definitely.
So doesn't JT sound like the ideal customer? Like because back at this time, you were
sure.
marketing director at MotorFist, and you guys were coming out with snowbike specific gear.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to build stuff that would allow, different types of abrasion, heat. Heat became an issue because you can't just, most of the gear that you'd put on, I think most of your snow gear would possibly melt if you got it too tight against the pipes and stuff. So from that standpoint, even down to boots, a different type of boot because you'd run a little bit more aggressive peg and a smaller platform to put your boots on. So yeah, pretty specialized, at least to some degree.
Speaking of that, the MotorFist Stomper boot, that was a phenomenal snowbike boot.
Yeah, that was a good one. A little smaller foot form, easier to shift and find a brake. So.
Yeah, braking systems on snowbikes back then. I mean, now they're dialed.
Yeah.
All this stuff has come so far. In the how far are we into the snowbike crate? Like, Alan came out with these. I credit Alan Mangum with kind of being the godfather of the snowbike segment.
Yeah.
There were other snow bikes that did come out before, and when we rode them before the Mountain Horse was out. But the Mountain Horse is what went through the snow and went up mountains, not just downhill. Like this thing could go through deep snow, and I think it was. I still can't remember, even though we just said it. It was like 07, 08. Alan had come out with the Timbersled Mountain Horse. So Timbersled was the company name. Mountain Horse was the name of Snowbike Kit.
Right.
Okay.
If you go back far enough, because everybody knows it now as Timbersled is the Snowbike Kit. But it was the Timbersled Mountain Horse, and he showed up in Idaho Falls one winter afternoon, came to the office, and was like, "Hey, come out and ride these things. Like, I know you're a snowmobile guy. Come out and ride these things. Just try it. Please just try it." So we went to dinner that night at Applebee's. I brought my brother. He's a dirt biker. He's not a snowmobiler. So we went and met Alan there, and he gave us the whole rundown on everything works and kind of what to expect. Met him on the mountain, Pine Creek Pass, the next day, and jumped on. I think he had a Yamaha 450 and a Kawasaki 450, and then he had a KTM, like a Duke. What is it?
Like a Super Duke?
Yeah,
like a 12, like a 690 or something.
Yeah, like a 690, or maybe it was the adventure bike.
Oh, okay.
More of an adventure bike. It was a big bike, but he had put a track kit on it, so he rode that. And Chuck and I rode the Cowie and the Yamaha. And I tell you what, because we started out, we pulled off to the side of the road. I'm like, he's like, "Where should we go?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a parking lot up here." And he's like, "Is there anywhere we can just park and just go? Like, instead of getting on a road or down a trail or anything, like we just need to go."
Right.
I'm like, "Well, we'll just pull into Mike Spencer, like right there."
Right.
So,
Yeah.
It's 50 yards from the little turn off, and you can be right in the trees. Like, okay, perfect. Because he knew not to like start off on a green trail, and so we took off, and it was unreal. Like we had been dirt bikers. I grew up riding dirt bikes, and my brother was way more into dirt biking, but and I could tell right off the bat that coming from a snowmobile background helped more than coming from a dirt bike background.
For sure.
Like he had a little bit of the balance, but I could read terrain and snow. And he was fighting the snow because he was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to be a dirt biker and go."
He's waiting for the trail.
Yeah, and I'm like the snowmobiler, and I'm like, "Okay, you're an idiot. I can go read the terrain. I can read this snow is doing this." It was a blast. Like it was eye opening. Yeah. And so from that point on, like we dove in head first with Snow West, and we created like Snowbike World. We were trying to build up this media for this segment because we thought it would be huge, and kind of bought into that whole thing. And you probably did too. Like, that was the target audience. Was there's so many dirt bikers. I remember Bruce from Camzo one year at the Utah show just saying, "Look, man, there are so many more dirt bikers than snowmobiles out there. So these are going to be huge. Like every dirt biker is going to buy this so that they can ride their dirt bike in the winter." And I was skeptical of that because it's like, those guys don't. If those guys liked winter, they wouldn't live where they live. Yeah. And they're a cheaper market too. Like you were talking about. You work at a dealership in Utah. What was the process of like getting somebody who didn't snowmobile into a snow bike?
Yeah. So like I went from having the same conversation with the same customer from summer to winter, and in the summer we're talking about like a $50 jersey and $150 pant, and that was more of like, okay, you might feel a little bit more performance in this, but really it's an aesthetic thing, and then but you need this $1,000 head to toe kit because it's life saving. You know, you need to stay warm, and this is going to provide the best experience, keeping you dry and warm, and so then just adding it up, like it was a big barrier for a lot of them, for sure.
Justin, you had specific gear at MotorFist.
Yeah.
You had a snowbike pant.
Yeah, we had a snowbike pant. We were working on a boot that was supposed to be specific for, although the Stomper was pretty good, the original Stomper. But yeah, it just had some heat panels in it that would protect against excessive heat and not melt.
Did
the
it
pants.
sell? Like, was there demand for it?
Yeah, I think right at the time that we released it, it was kind of in that like build-up time with the snowbike industry. You were talking about it a lot. It did pretty well. I mean, it was still a pretty small market. And again, kind of like we were talking before, I mean, I think that the average dirt biker does have a hard time going and buying a bunch of gear because they've never really needed it before. You can ride in kind of anything. Doesn't really matter, where now all of a sudden it matters. And I think a lot of guys would be like, well, no, I have a pair of snow pants. We can be fine probably right till they melt through the side of them, and then they realize that you actually need something different. So I think we came out with one of ours. I know Climb right around the same time came out with a snowbike specific pant too, with basically a panel that and some abrasion areas that would hold up a little bit better to the dirt bike.
Did you have a lot of warranty claims that were melted spots on the inside right knee?
I don't remember. I haven't
On the
worked too closely,
bike?
but I think a few. Yeah, I think they'd be like, I don't know what happened. Something happened. Like, are you a snow biker? Like, yeah. So
It did it in the dryer.
yeah.
But JT, like you were talking about, like you're down in the I don't know, Salt Lake Draper area.
Yeah.
So that dirt bike audience probably is like, well, it's a 4-hour drive to St. George and Hurricane. I go down there and ride motocross tracks. I go down there and ride the desert.
Yeah.
And you're trying to convert that person into no, go the other way.
Yeah.
But spend a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't key. You know, the gear is one thing, but you got to have like an Avi bag. There's $1,000, and you got to have the track kit. You know, the raw kit that was $4,000 to get into that.
Yeah, it was 3 when I bought it. Yeah,
So $3,000 back, and that's kind of come and went. And now a top, a good track kit, timber sled, Yeti, Mountaintop. You're $8,000 or more into these things, right?
Yeah,
just for the track kit.
Yeah, you're closer to the 95 range on a lot of these now.
So,
by the time you're riding it.
Yeah, so I think part of the snow bike boom, and then the quick retraction. We were up to 7 or 8. I was trying to list them all off. We had timber sled, Yeti, Camzo, and then Yeti, Mototrax,
Yeti. There's a few over in like Russia and stuff like that were out there, but they didn't really hit over here.
There were a couple other small kits because one year, I think it was 17 or 18, Nate King and I, Nate was our snowbike guy. He ran Snowbike World for us, and he was diehard snowbike. And so we had a fleet of 8 bikes, and 2 of them were on timber sleds. So we had 6 bikes that were all different kits. We had a Mototrax, and Mototrax was pretty fun, like good suspension. We had a Camzo on there.
You have CMX probably.
Oh yeah, CMX.
Yeah.
We did have a CMX. We had a CMX bike, and that's a good kit. Like those, like Mark does some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, just all these kits, and we went from, it was kind of like you were talking about in our first episode of we're in this stage of the late 90s, early 2000s currently in the snowbike world. Well, the snowmobile industry went from like 20 some odd manufacturers to 2 or 3, and then grew back up from there. Snowbike has kind of done the same thing. Went from 1 or 2, boomed up to like 7 or 8, 9 worldwide, back down to 2, and then back up to 3. CMX or C3 is back with Kevin up Yeti is back with C3.
Yeah.
With Kevin up in Canada. Mark is still making CMX kits. Then you got Mountaintop, you got timber sleds. You really have 4. I know Mototrax is still building kits. So you've still got 4 or 5 kits out there, but mass production stuff is really just a couple of guys. And yeah, it just kind of boomed and then it receded off of that. And I think part of that came from the cost of entry. Like, it's an expensive thing to get into because the concept was, okay, you've already got, like Justin, you've already got a dirt bike.
Right.
All I've got to do is talk you into buying a Snowbike kit. Well, once you buy that, then you go out and you realize you talk to somebody like JT and you're like, well, you need an engine blanket, you need a thermostat, you need heated handlebars, you need fuel caddy, you need an exhaust system because you want every last bit of horsepower out of it you can get. Oh, by the way, you need a trailer, like something that that a dirt biker doesn't have.
Yeah.
So it just got real expensive real fast.
And then there's another layer where it's evolving so fast. Like what I rode 2 years ago or 3 years ago has been elevated quite a bit. So it's like, okay, now I got to feel like I got to get something the next year because it's evolving relatively quick and in its efficiencies and stuff like that. But yeah.
So talk about the Mountaintop Kit, because you were on timber sled since you bought that raw kit. Then you became a timber sled ambassador.
Yep.
You rode timber sled for years, and then kind of followed Alan's path, and now you're on Mountaintop. Talk about the Mountaintop Kit, what Alan's done there, dealing with Alan. What's that been like?
It's been a treat, honestly. Like, it's been fun. It's been a very collaborative experience with both, like, from him and I to be able to bounce back and forth in that regard. And then to be able to, like, have input on some of the, like, aspects of the machine. But what he had come up with before I ever even came into the equation was already just, like, just refining each component. The first day I saw it, I saw, like, there was so much thought and intention between each component being refined. And I was like, okay, this is day one. Like, we're onto a good footing, and
That's awesome.
We can, like, really shred from here. And each year we've evolved quite a bit. Jumping from the timber sleds to the mountaintops, like we talked about yesterday, they're all, like, you got your different brands, and they feel like relatively same, but when you dissect it, they're quite different, right? And the Mountaintop really aligned with me because I have a need on one side of my riding style and then the more active side of my riding style, and then the Mountaintop narrowed and gave me a platform that I could use and leverage both directions on the same ride with very minimal adjustments.
Where would you say the Mountaintop made the biggest advancement over what you were on, what you had been familiar with?
Yeah.
Steering, handling, ski stuff, track?
Yes, for sure. So it was definitely, like, in the, like, it was more agile side to side, and, like, being able to have a very sure-footed feeling going directly forward, and then still being able to, like, activate it and make it feel more light on the ski. And prior to that, I was either choosing something that was a little bit more darty and chaotic to ride, or something that was, like, almost boringly sure-footed. And Alan's really blended that with that transfer skid that he has in there.
Justin, do you think what impact do you think the Snowbike made on snowmobiles? Because I think at the time Snowbikes came out, snowmobiling was popular, but it was kind of boring.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was definitely something new, something to go try. And I know a lot of people that already dirt bike, so it was a pretty easy transition to go get a Snowbike kit, and bolt it on. And I know a few that even just straight up gave up snowmobiling and got rid of all their snowmobiles and just went and rode snow bikes. And I think at the time there was actually quite a bit of Avalanche activity that started to become a little bit more interested in that. And I think that was an appeal too to the snow biker. It kind of got you more in the trees. You didn't really have any reason to be out in a great big bowl on a snow bike anyway. And so, I don't know. That's kind of what I saw. I felt like people just needed. I think it was exciting. It's new. It's like anything that's new and exciting. Just want to try it and see what it looks like. And then I know originally it was very, very much sold as a bolt-on kit. Cost you a few $1,000s. I know a lot of guys that tried it and really enjoyed it. So, and if their riding group all went and got snow bikes, then they all went and got snow bikes, and it was really fun because you need people to ride with. And snow bikes and snowmobiles, they can go similar places, but I think it's a different ride. So
yeah, and I think you're right. It came down to what the group was doing,
right?
Yeah, because they were selling. I'm guessing you take all of those companies. I think altogether that they were doing about 4,000 to 5,000 kits a year at the peak, right? So not snowmobile numbers by any means. Like you're talking like 20,000 units a year from one brand at that time on snowmobile stuff, just of one model. But still, that's a lot of people. But also, Justin, like you are the target audience. You live in the snow belt. You are a hardcore dirt biker.
Yeah.
You do a lot of single track. You're also a hardcore snowmobiler. You're in that industry, but you didn't convert over. Like,
yeah, I remember looking at it, and I just kind of remember we rode them a couple of times. It was a lot of fun, and got to go places where I probably never would have taken a snowmobile. So that was just, it was definitely a unique experience. And I think I would have gotten into it other than I just, I don't know, my focus right then was a little bit more toward snowmobiles, and none of my friends really rode snow bikes, and so I was like,
what? Okay,
well, just trying. And so I don't know. I don't know that I maybe wasn't sold on it. The one time that we went, it was really fun. I mean, like I said, we went just being in places where maybe I'd never take a snowmobile, and a lot of fun. I felt like they were a little underpowered compared to maybe what it felt like riding a snowmobile sometimes, and maybe I was just lazy. It was just I'd start a whole new deal, because I'm kind of one of those guys. I probably couldn't just go buy a bike and put a bolt-on kit. I'd have to do it all out. So it was maybe just more work than going and getting a snowmobile.
So what all, if you want to go like head first into this, what all are you doing to a bike?
Bike that's sitting over there that I got is just a stock YZ. So I would say a fuel-injected 450 with electric start is a good platform to start from. And then you want to do something for temperature management, because that bike wasn't made for, the elevation that we're exposing to and the temperatures we're exposing to. So I always put a thermostat on them. And then I usually put like a pod type intake on it. That's unfortunately the most efficient right now to keep the snow from, wreaking havoc on just suffocating it and stuff. So do that, and then that's really all my 450 has. Oh, and I put like I'm running SXS slide plate, but like you can run anything to encase the motor and keep it warm and keep the elements off of it. And those three things are in my opinion, the basics. Oh, and I run a temperature gauge that I mount right from my thermostat, so I can see my temps, and that's the most important piece right there. Being able to watch that temperature and make sure that I'm not going too far under or below, or just staying within my window. And if I can do that, like I can keep a motor together for well over 150 hours, as long as whether it has any of those other things, as long as I know what my temps are and I'm within that window. It's treated me really well.
We had a little different approach on the media side of things, because we come from the side of just testing things, and so it's a shorter term of ownership.
Yeah.
And probably a high intensity level of that short term. But some years we built like really crazy bikes. Like Nate would just go all in. He built a Raise with the Alpha motor kit. It was a big bore engine kit. He ran nitrous. We did turbos. Bryce Kendrick, Force Turbos, he built the turbo kit for us for one bike. Junior at Boondockers built the turbo kit for us for another bike. Way too early in the stage of turbos working on single cylinder 4-strokes.
Yeah.
Those were interesting, but we did that. We were on that end of the spectrum, just in-depth, crazy builds. And then we just did the builds where we just literally slapped on a kit, didn't touch the bike, didn't put handguards on, just rode.
Yeah.
And those, I had almost more fun on those bikes where we just slapped a kit on and rode it, and didn't go in depth on the thermal bobs that were big at the time and the engine blankets and all that. I think that stuff is valuable, and I think you need it if you're going to do that as your primary vehicle.
Yeah.
But you can still just slap a kit on.
Oh, for sure.
We built a KTM 350 SXF, 17, 18, somewhere around there. And we went down road in Cub River area with just outside of Logan, Utah, with Brock Butters, who's still a timber sled guy. He does guide stuff as well. He's a timber sled athlete, timber sled ambassador. And so we rode with him, and Brock would help us build our bikes. In fact, we used to build them at the snow shows.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back then. But we took that 350, and we were up in there, and there was this climb that I had a GoPro on, and I had that 350 pinned, just full bar pinned, for 5 minutes. Like the clip on the GoPro was 5 minutes in second gear, just. And those 350s, those things run out at like
they were impressive.
High RPM.
Good bikes.
And so I figure as long as I don't think about things like that, like temperatures, and I don't worry about oil and cold snow hitting the engine, you just put that stuff out of your mind and you just pin it. these guys that build these bikes know what they're doing. I mean, I'm sure they're doing durability testing. That they're motor. I used to tell Nate. I said, these things are motocross bikes built for Ryan Dungey to go race 2 450 motos in the heat. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they can handle me dragging my fat butt around on a mountain for a few hours a day. So that was my logic. So I didn't have gauges. I didn't have all that crap. But Chris from Ray's Power Sports, when he came out, he was like, yeah, you had that 350, right? And you had that clip on YouTube, 5 minutes, just wide open throttle. Like, that was crazy. Like, do you not even think about what you're doing there? Like, all that cold snow hitting your engine. And
you're like, no.
It ran. I mean, it ran the whole year. We never had a problem with it. Like, sometimes just being dumb and ignorant.
Sorry to whoever bought that one after, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's also the beauty of it, because you run that bike and then you sell it, and then you get a new bike for the summer and go ride that, and then you convert that one in the fall. But I don't know. Because back then, too, people were like, well, yeah, let's sell this on the fact that you already have a dirt bike and we can just do a conversion kit and it's easy to swap. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a half-truth, because it's actually easier to go buy a second dirt bike, convert it, and leave it as a snow bike.
For sure.
But then it's like what you're talking about. Well, but I want the new kit that comes out the next year. So I talked myself into 2 bikes. One of them's a dedicated snow bike. But the dedicated snow bike is now the old bike, and the track kit is old. So now I have to break that down anyway, sell the bike, sell the track kit, buy a new bike, buy a new track kit. Yeah. It's just a vicious cycle.
It is. Yeah.
Well, and we talked a little bit before. I mean, where do you see? There's so much innovation happening. It's kind of interesting that it just kind of exploded. I think it got exciting, then it's kind of drawn back, but nobody's stopping. Like, people are still innovating, maybe just not as openly or as quickly as it kind of exploded, which I think is pretty typical for any industry, to be honest with you. I think there's an initial excitement and then that drawback. So, I mean, where would you like to see, or where do you see the snow bike industry going from this point forward?
I think we're in a really cool place where you're going to see either like I'd like to see like a complete turnkey unit that's ready to go, and like you said, you've taken out you're just buying this one item and it's ready to go. And I feel like that's what our industry could use more of, as this complete piece, because I think that's a barrier for some people to get past. Right, we were talking in the last one about how you got the Jeep type mentality that likes to tinker and we like to customize, and we've maximized really good on that customer. And that person, or that enthusiast is a better word. And I think moving into that next layer where you can just buy a snowmobile, pull the rope, and make sure you have some oil in it, and it's going to perform for you. And so if we can get some of that stuff tweaked in or dialed in, and then there's a whole nother layer of like, now let's expand into like the turbos and making that more efficient, like, because there's so much technology that's came from this. The turbos now from 16 have become so much more far.
Yeah, when snow bikes boomed, it was 15, 16, 17, and that was kind of a spot where we were still on 800s. The 850 hadn't come out yet. And I've said it before that the snowmobiling was fun, but it was a little bit boring. The product had been the same. And we're getting belt drives and new stuff, but that wasn't what we're riding now. And so I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is new and exciting. Let's go do this for a while. But all that time, the snowmobile engineers, they were watching snow bike stuff. I mean, in our conversations with them, they were paying attention to it, but I think they knew the limitations that they had. They weren't going to go, like Arctic Cat tried to go to a production snow bike kit, and they announced it before they realized that, man, we can't sell this thing without having a heat shield over any engine part, without having a protective layer over anything that's moving. Like we would have to enclose the chain and the rear sprocket and the front sprocket, and everything would have to be enclosed to meet the restrictions that they're required. And that snow bike would have to have been 100 pounds heavier than it was, and that just killed it.
Right.
Yeah. So, now you have a power to weight issue. If you've added another 100, 150, it's tough. So. And
then Skidoo and Polaris at that point. So the 850s come out in 2019. The Polaris 850 came out in 2019. The Skidoo 850 was out. so you go from when they release those, you go back probably 4 years, and that's when they're in development of the 850s. And at that point, also they know that they're coming out with factory turbos. So you go back to like 2014, Polaris and Arctic or Polaris and Skidoo know that they're going to come out with a factory turbo in the future.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there watching us go like, oh hey, snowbikes are cool. Hey, Mr. Engineer at Polaris, have you ever tried a snowbike? Like that's the future of snowmobile. And then they're like, you're an idiot. Like we just wait and see what we got coming out.
Yeah.
And then the factory turbos come out 2020, 2021 Skidoo, and then 22 Polaris. And look what it's done to the sport. It's totally revolutionized mountain riding. It's killed a huge aftermarket segment. It's had a big impact on snow bikers. I think it's brought a lot of snow bikers back to snowmobiles.
Yes.
Because it solves this power to weight problem that everybody's after. Yeah. And the snow bike was cool on that power to weight thing because you were so light, but you didn't have the power.
Well, now with that, I feel like it's stitched too because the snow biker kind of opened up a lot of terrain to our perspectives as snowmobilers of what's capable or what's possible. Yep. And then now you have an agile platform for the snowmobile and ample power, and our power to weight ratio is more balanced out. And I think the two of them really kind of elevated where we are at today with snowmobiling.
Yeah, I think the snow bike definitely taught some of these guys, look, a narrower footprint means that you can do a lot more stuff on the mountain. You know, we've seen the Skidoos come in from 36 inches. Well, shoot, you go back far enough to the old XRS, 43 inches.
Yeah.
To
long ways
to 34-inch ski stands now.
Yeah.
And that's a narrow vehicle. Polaris is still at a 36, but I know like Jack Struthers, he takes his Matrix RMKs and he brings those into 34-inch. And it just creates this narrower slot that you're making in the snow. So it affects the leverage, like when you're trying to roll into the mountain on a side hill. You know, deep snow you're rolling in, firm snow you're lifting. Well, the narrower that is, the easier it is to get it up on edge and hold it. And as you know, a snow bike has no edge.
Right.
It drives everywhere flat.
Solid.
Yeah.
There's no lifting a snow bike on edge. So I think some of that has impacted snowmobile design from an engineering standpoint for sure.
Which is kind of, so it's what's interesting about that is I remember, you know, when they first started coming out with the snow bike stuff and then we saw the snowmobiles, I just thought, oh, this will all come into one. Like you'll have a hybrid snowmobile snow bike, and it's going to be super narrow, all the power that you want out of a snowmobile. But as time's kind of gone on, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I don't know that. I think they can draw from each other, and I think we get confused a little bit thinking, no, they'll all merge together into one thing because now you've got these awesome things that snow bikes do. But I think they're inherently different too.
Totally.
I think it's wrong to think that they could be the same. It could just because it looks like half a snowmobile, you know, right. But yeah, so I guess that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. I mean, do most of the riders want to do they want to build their own kit? When we talk about a turnkey, would you see it like, you know, we build one that just we can put on any of these bikes and then we sell those bikes? Or do you see there actually being a snow bike manufacturer where they, we were even talking about a bigger motor. I mean, what would be on your wish list for, if you said turnkey, let's say new company makes just an all new snow bike / you know, ready to go, maybe even looks a little different. Like what would be on your wish list?
On a personal basis and my riding style, I would like what I have in regards to the ergonomics, that dirt bike, and then going to, if I could double the power of my dirt bike and still have that power, like the weight ratio that I've got, that would give me what I'm looking for. Like just to give it a little bit more of that, what you described, like being able to pack the ski and just choose, I'm going to go here. Yeah. You know what I mean? With no restrictions. But the way that it's ergonomically set, it's been really conducive for me as I've adapted to the way you ride the snow bike versus the snowmobile. But there's also a thing that like NAR bikes played with, which have you been exposed to the NAR bike much? No. Where they take like a dirt bike and then they're actually putting the track closer to underneath the
oh, right. That's what Cody Matacek is on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
And that's a platform I haven't ridden, so it'd be really interesting to feel that, because then I can get back on the back of the machine a little bit more and shorten everything up. That would be kind of intriguing to ride, but I haven't done anything like that. But I guess for, as like my type of riding, what I like about the snow bike that the Snowmobile isn't offering was just like I get more days on the snow because it's a little bit more adaptable to different snow conditions, and then opens up a lot more terrain. I can go into a snow fed or like a wind fed aspect and spend most of my day playing in the trees that might be a lot more like crawling or like more intentional side hilling across. I can go and have a blast in that zone. So. So to pull it all through, that's my own perspective of the bike. But if we look at like how do we expand the snow bike enthusiast, I think we're at a barrier where we've maximized, or most of our riders are people that are customizers. Whereas like that snowmobiler perspective that was in '97, he made a lot of his solutions in his garage or his friends, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And that's where snow bikes are now. But if we can get to a point where the next layer of people that just want to ride this thing once or twice and not be fully invested, and it's a turnkey, and I can just boom, start it, and then I don't have to worry about, did the oil get changed, is the temperatures good, like all that stuff. That'll really open up a lot for a lot of people, and maybe then we can get into a whole nother market of enthusiasts.
I just worry that you're not going to get that turnkey from Skidoo and Polaris, and we know Cat tried and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going to come from the snowmobile manufacturer, so you're going to be reliant on KTM, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, those guys. I don't think the market's big enough, because if at peak you were selling 5,000 kits a year, we're smaller than that now. You're selling 3,000. Let's exaggerate, and so we're saying we're selling 3,000 new kits a year, which
right.
Maybe we're 3,000 to 4,000. 10% of that would buy probably this turnkey thing. So
right.
Is KTM going to go build a turnkey snow bike for 400 people?
No, you're totally right. There's an aspect of that that's like, it doesn't balance out, like it doesn't, like for what it would cost to engineer something like that. It's going to take someone formulating that, I think, in their own way. But like on our last conversation, I love the perspective you had about like picking the bike I like and the color and the, you know what I mean? Right now we have a really ample opportunity of like what we want in the machine.
Well, it's kind of happened. 80 Boyven came out with the Snowhawk, in the early 2000s, and the Snowhawk was. This is before Timber Sled. This is before the Mountain Horse. So
right.
it was a snow bike version. Nothing like a snow bike. Not the same experience whatsoever. Like the current snow bike handles better. Like it's I think it's more capable in the mountains. But 80 Boyven did that. They said, okay, we're going to make a turnkey machine that is not a snowmobile. It's what we think the future of snowmobiling is. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you have one option. If you want that, you can only go buy the 80 Boyven Snowhawk. Yeah. But let's say 80 Boyven comes out with the next generation of Snowhawk, which they think is the new turnkey snow bike. Well, now you can either go buy that, or you can go say, hey, I like my Yamaha better.
Yeah.
You like your Husky better. You can go buy whatever brand you like and build that. It's going to be tough to get to that point.
It would have to solve a lot of the problems, like from the start. You can't come out with something that says, hey, we just decided to make a snow bike specific company. Doesn't look anything like a dirt bike, but kind of does. But we got the same horsepower. We've got basically a bolt-on kit. Like, I don't think you can try to fake people into thinking that they're getting a snow bike and really just producing a dirt bike with a snow bike kit. It'd have to be something totally different. Whether the motor produces, if you could get twice the horsepower, different clutching system, and solve all those problems, I think it'd be something that could carry some weight. Again, who does that? Like, it's hard when, because really what you're producing, what you're riding right now is phenomenal. So it's kind of hard to say, well, let's take that away from everybody. And if you are trying to sell to dirt bikers because you want that dirt biking in the mountains and then the snow experience, I mean, you have what you ride, A lot of guys I'm not really looking to change manufacturers just so I can ride in the snow. So I don't know, it might be a tough sell just a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And now a snow bike is like, if you come into the industry and you've got money to burn, and you're like, okay, well, I can go spend cost to invest like 24 grand into a factory turbo with a few accessories and then my gear and then a truck and a trailer, or I can go spend honestly 20 grand on a snow bike with a track kit and a good bike, a brand new bike,
fully
and some
ready
accessories and some gear. Cost of entry is about the same. I'm going to get a factory turbo with 180 horse on this side. I'm going to get a 450F with 60 horse on this side.
Yeah.
You just got to separate the power out of it because it's an experience. Like, I still love snow biking. Like, it is fun. Yeah. And there's few things on snow that match that experience. But man, it's tough to compete with the factory turbo now.
Yeah. And we've kind of said it, but we haven't really said it. Like, snow biking and snowmobiling are truly, totally different channels. Like, they're truly a different experience. And you and I talked yesterday. Like, I don't believe that the snow bike replaces the snowmobile. I just chose the snow bike pathway because it had more opportunity for me to be creative and create solutions that I witnessed in the earlier path and that sort of thing, right? But the way I ride that and then opening new levels of being able to ride them is cool, right? But then the snowmobile is a totally different pathway, but they're really neat. It's just a bummer we don't have more time to ride both of them because the key is to have one of each in the garage, you know?
Yeah, if you had longer seasons, and I mean, it's a whole. I mean, this is a whole tangent, but like we constantly are having these conversations of why is the industry different now than it was 20 years ago? Well, we're not competing. It's not Skidoo competing against Polaris, against Arctic Cat, against Yamaha. It's the snowmobile industry competing against everything else you can do in the winter.
Right.
Verbos, cruises, trips, like all of this stuff. It's so much easier to get out of the snow belt and go do something on a weekend than it used to be 25 years ago. Yeah. So you're competing for that family's money on what they do to recreate in the winter versus all of those other things that they can do. Yeah. Where it used to be just like, okay, well, we'll just hunker down. We'll get a cabin, we'll get a handful of snowmobiles, and that's what we'll do in the winter. We'll be a snowmobile family. Yeah. And so you're competing with that more than anything now.
Well, you nailed it. That's so true.
So, but that's a wild tangent. But I mean, the bottom line is snowbiking is flipping fun. Like I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Like it's wild. Like you were talking about, you can cling to the side of a flipping mountain where your handlebar is leaving a mark in the snow. Yeah. But you are sitting vertical. And that's the difference.
With minimal effort.
Yeah, with minimal effort. That's the difference.
And so are the trees. So it's easy to ride through the trees and pick lines and fun.
That's a good point.
Go anywhere you want.
That's because the snowmobile effectively becomes about 8 feet wide.
Right. Yeah. You go corner to corner. That's a lot wider than what you think. Your 34-inch ski stance is a lot wider than 34 on a side hill.
Yeah. Your track is generally dragging and dropping below you and picking back up above you. And
you have a machine that inherently wants to go down the hill. Gravity wants it to go down. So different than a snow bike.
On the snow bike, you can stop. And you can pick lines, and you can be on that super steep thing with a lot of consequence at the bottom, and you can just turn downhill and then just go the other way. Yeah. And like Caleb Konsterke can do that on a snowmobile. I can't. Right. I'm not turning that snowmobile around in a 10-foot radius like Caleb can, but I can do that on a snow bike. Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of people got a lot of appeal to it.
Something on that topic I'd like to express is like people like riding snowmobiles because of how active it is. It's a very engaging experience, right? And the snow bike almost can be misconstrued at times as almost like a mellower experience. And my perspective since day one has been, okay, I want to put as much effort as I would on my snowmobile on my snow bike and see what we can do now. Because now we're you know what I'm saying? I'm not cool. Just like, I'm going to put the same amount of effort and see what this thing can do. And that's really fun and exciting. Yeah. But then, like, I'm like the Energizer Bunny, where I'll just go, like, shred around, and then I, like, smoke myself, and then I can, like, relax to get back to the truck and not have that dreadful, like, whooped out trail back home, you know?
That's the one thing about a snowmobile is you go all the way back into the mountains, and you burn all your energy and you burn all your fuel. Yeah. And then if it was a technical ride back in, it's a lot of work to get back out when you're smoked.
It's the best.
the snow bikes were always a little bit easier to just get out of there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've come to terms with it where it's just like if you're out on a snow bike and I'm out on a snowmobile, good. We're both out in the snow having fun.
Yeah.
We're both still coming to the same snowmobile show.
Mm-hmm.
We're both buying gear,
Mm-hmm.
and we're both just enjoying winter.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool about it.
That's
It's a good life.
Yep. All right. JT Cox, Justin JT Cox. Follow him on Instagram, Justin Cox 205. Justin Stevens, follow him on Instagram too.
Yeah. There's nothing exciting to see.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more shows, more episodes of the Snow West Show, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Snow West Magazine. You can also catch these shows just on audio platforms on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And also go to snowwest.com. We are still printing the magazine, and we will always print the magazine. Like, as long as we're around, we'll be printing Snow West. You can get a subscription. Go to snowwest.com and sign up. And check out the merch. We do shirts and hats and a lot of fun stuff there. But thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the show. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to us and helps us produce more of these things. But thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next one.